So this fall semester, I volunteered at an organization called SOWK, which is a therapeutic horseback riding center here in San Marcos. SOWK's mission statement is to deliver therapeutic horseback riding experiences to children and adults with physical, mental, emotional, and learning disabilities. SOWK works with persons with disabilities of all ages, race, gender, and strives to increase their physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So it's not just physical therapy, it's all-encompassing. And this is a photo from the website of one of our arena lessons that we do. Sources of funding. SOWK is a private nonprofit agency and is funded mainly through grants, fundraisers, and donations. So starting last year, SOWK started throwing a gala in the spring, which is their biggest fundraiser, and it raised $59,456. That money went towards building a covered arena, which increases SOWK's capabilities and ability to serve their clients. So before, they just had like an open, uncovered dirt arena that they were working with, which made it a little hard when there was inclement weather or really hot or cold. But now with the covered arena, they can serve their clients in most weather, unless it goes under 40 degrees or over 100. So my daily life at SOWK as a volunteer, my time was spent doing horse care and client interaction. I would arrive, and if there wasn't a client that was about to be there, I would go and clean stalls, check on the horses. About 15 to 20 minutes before the clients would arrive, we would pull out the horse or horses that we were going to use for the sessions. We would look them over, make sure they didn't have any bruises, cuts, that they were healthy. We would brush them down, check their feet. And then once the client arrived, most of them would help us groom them. We would get them a brush. We would ask them to brush 3 times on each side of the horse. Some of them would help us try to pick the feet of the horse. And then the clients that were able, we would have them help us tack up the horse. So they would help carry a blanket. We'd help them put it over the back of the horse. Some of them would try and help carry the saddle, but they were Western saddles, so they were really heavy. And then we had a mounting area, so the clients wouldn't be mounting from the ground, because even for able-bodied people, that can be really difficult to pull yourself up on a tall horse. So we had a wooden structure that we would lead the horse into, and then the client would just kind of step onto their back, which made it a lot easier on everyone. And I would act as a sidewalker or a horse handler. So if I was sidewalking, I would just walk beside the horse. I would keep my hand on the knee of the client, watch their balance, make sure they weren't shifting to either side, make sure they were okay. And if I was a horse handler, I would be leading the horse. I would be keeping the horse's head low, making sure that they were okay, that they weren't gonna spook at anything. And then after the last session of the day, I would help clean stalls again, bring in the horses from the pasture, prep their feed. We had a wheelbarrow with a bunch of Folgers coffee cans that we would mix each horse's feed in because each one was a little different. And then we would go and feed each of them in the stalls. I would help sweep down the aisles because they got really dirty with hay and horse manure and all types of dirt, as well as any kind of general cleaning and organizing, like cobwebs or dust, anything that needed to be done. So a typical session at SOWK usually consisted of the client would mount at the mounting area. We would go into the arena, close the gate. We would do a couple walking warm-up laps just to get the horse comfortable, the client comfortable, just a nice little warm-up. And then after that, we would usually have a pattern set up in the arena with like wooden beams and barrels and cones that would change a little bit every day. And the instructor would either ask the client to memorize a pattern or ask them to create their own, and like ask them to pick which direction they would want to go, which way they would want to circle a barrel, or just anything to let them make their own decisions. And then we would walk them through it a couple times. We would ask them to repeat it back to us to see that they were paying attention and remembering it. And then usually we would ask them to walk through it themselves. We would still be there walking with them, but we would ask them to like take the reins and kind of remember which direction to pull, which way to go around certain objects. And we had various aids and games. We had pull tubes, like you can see here, which is just a little plastic tube that pulls in and out, kind of like the bendy straws. and we would pull it out into a circle and have clients place it over poles like this or on a post with hooks. We had beanbag tosses that we would use for the clients. We either had the little bins that they had to make it into, or we had a little tic-tac-toe board and we would kind of play with them. Or we also had a big tic-tac-toe that we could walk the horse up to and they could swing the blocks to play it with us. We also had a horse car wash, which was my personal favorite. We had a frame that was square and we would zip tie pool noodles to it to where they all hung down. And then we would walk the horse and the client through it, just kind of like a car wash. They thought it was really fun, they liked it. So networking, SOAR networks with insurance agencies such as Blue Cross Blue Shield and Medicaid. Blue Cross Blue Shield has a program called Texas Star Kids that they refer clients to, and Medicaid has the CLASS program. SOAR also receives client referrals from various residential treatment facilities in the area of San Marcos and the surrounding areas. The main gap that I noticed within the agency and the agencies that it networks is financial cost. Clients who don't have insurance have to pay out of pocket, which is really expensive, and that's on top of all of the medical bills that they might have and just their daily expenses. And if they have insurance, wait lists are incredibly long, and some clients are denied spots on the wait list because it's presumed that their disability is going to take their life before they would be able to move off of the wait list, because they're years and years long. Additionally, since SOAR is a nonprofit that operates off grants and donations, they're limited on just how cost effective they can be to clients. Horses are expensive, the upkeep of them, their feed, their bedding. It's really hard for SOAR to be able to be affordable with the price of the horse care. So my most memorable experience, every Wednesday morning, I came out at 8:45, I would work with the same 2 clients, and one morning, near the end of the semester, we had 5 of us volunteers out there working with the client. We were walking around doing our warm-up laps, and this particular client really liked jokes. So the other volunteers would always Google jokes before they got there and try to pick out the best ones. I had never tried one because I was just nervous that no one would laugh at it. But this time I decided to tell this silly little science joke from high school, and everyone thought it was so funny. And the client laughed so hard at it that we actually had to pause the session for a minute and give them their water bottle and get them to calm their breathing. And they were still laughing about it for the rest of our 30-minute session, on and off. And they were still laughing about it whenever they left. And that was the best spirits I'd ever seen them be in. And it was just really sweet to watch, especially since that client wasn't super expressive on most days. And all of us volunteers were just in a really good mood after that, and it was probably my favorite morning out there. So the most significant thing that I learned while volunteering at SOAR is how effective and multifunctional recreational therapy can be to persons with disabilities. Coming into this, I had never worked with any kind of equine therapy. I didn't know much about it. I just kind of knew the vague idea. I figured that it was mostly physical, that I had to do with muscle usage and balance of being on the horse. And I learned that it is actually a lot more emotional and mental than it is physical. As I volunteered with SOAR, I learned that it can help with emotional regulation, social and communication development, building autonomy and self-determination, and simply sparking joy. We would give our clients a lot of choices that would not only make them think, but also build their confidence in themselves. It can influence and benefit all areas of a person's life, and that's why it is so, so important. I had an amazing time volunteering at SOAR, and I plan to continue to do so when I have time over the rest of my college career.